So for the last event of this year's Golden Garter, we're really delighted that Natalie Serena is going to talk to us about her work over the last year or so on Rose Mooney's Harp. This is a project that the Historical Harp Society started almost 2 years ago. We applied for Music Network grant funding to build big 18th century Irish harp copies. And this was two artists from the two Rose Mooneys, and I think the Rose Mooney has been such an interesting project because there were so many challenges. And so we're really pleased that Natalie has agreed to tell us about the process from a harp maker to engineer. So thank you, Natalie.
What I'll be talking about is about measuring the instrument and then trying to recreate it, and what questions, problems, and decisions we come across when we're doing all that. So, creating a historical instrument seems to be a relatively easy task. Just go to arrange it with the museum, go to the museum, measure the thing, take as accurate measurements as possible, and just make it. Easy. Easy. But here, it's not very obvious yet. So, here's the first question to the audience. We see this instrument as a lot of repairs, right? Or at least 3 sections which are dubious. So shape was distorted in some way. What do you think? What are we supposed to do next? So we took the measurements, we see the repairs. Are we reconstructing it in the current shape, repaired shape? Or are we trying to reconstruct it in the shape it was actually created in the first place? What do you think?
It first go for the how it was new. If you can do both, then do one of the beach.
Why?
Because I want to see how it works, and with the trying to recreate it as it was, I want to see if it breaks and how. Because if the repairs were there because of the construction, it should break in the same way.
Right, okay.
And maybe it will broke it, but I don't know, but for speaking it's done. It's
Okay. Other opinions?
You do either, and you do them for different reasons, maybe.
Okay.
Do both.
Yeah, why? Why for each? Why would you do it in the original, or as what we think might have been an original shape, and the other one would have?
I
What
would
we see
say
now.
that you should be careful that you can measurements of how it would seem to put together, like an ideal of how it, and then an exact measurement of the breakages, an exact break. Put those two together and try to analyse in as many ways as possible the difference between those two.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's roughly what we're doing, actually. So yeah. There are two sides battling in me, because from one point of view, I'm a historian in my past. I would like to certainly to try the instrument, which is how it was in the original shape, and also try to measure things and to recreate the way it is now. So this is like a historical approach. The other approach, as a harp maker, of course, as a player, I would like my instrument to sound perfect to my ear, right, and to my technique. So what I think is good sound, that means that I would also take maybe use my own ear for tuning the soundboard and all that. So it's just for people to realise, just as a historian and you. So yeah, you'll do the break. You'll do it in this shape, and then you know what sound rows you need to have. And possibly because there are so many repairs and there's so much metal there, it could have rattled very easily. And but as an instrument maker and player, I would probably like to imagine what would be the perfect way, how it would be reconstructed in its perfect shape originally, as how it was originally designed, and possibly because timbers are different, I wouldn't have access to exactly the same piece of wood now. I would, if I would do tap tuning, I would listen to this piece of timber, so the thicknesses might be different. But anyway, this project is about reconstructing it in the way I measured it. And there are some flaws in the measuring, in the measuring ways, because like looking at the old Harvard detector story. Of course, the best way of analysis is what Karen did. Do the full-blown CT scan, X-rays, take measurements millimeter by millimeter. Everything is there. You can look up under the canvases. You can see all the internal cracks. You can see what happened there. You can see if the crack goes all the way through or not. So it's all possible. But unfortunately, we're limited. I was limited in my equipment. So I could only use something what I was actually loaned. I'm very grateful to Paul Doyle and Bobo here, who actually loaned me a Luthier volume inspection camera. It's a tiny little camera which goes into F-holes in the volume. And also Hackinger and Tron probe to measure the thicknesses for the sample and size. It's not perfect, it's not ideal. We're not going to get accuracy down to 100th of a millimeter, but it's what we have access to. So when we look at the heart, what can we see here? So we have to do the external inspection of the heart. And what can we see here? No, I can't do it. So it's very badly damaged neck, like horrendously. You can't see what happened there. You don't know what happened here. Everything is plastered with canvas. No idea what the joint looks like. No idea what the top looks like. No idea if the crack goes all the way through or only halfway. No idea. Very hard to figure out. Here, what happened here? Any ideas?
Looks like a decay of some sort.
Looks like okay. Anything else? No, that's canvas. It's a repair. It's repairing technique. It's when you soak a piece of canvas in endoglue and then you wrap around it. It's really strong and it holds it together very well. And what happened here? How can we interpret that? How does it look inside? Where does it start? Where does it finish? Where is the tenon? Where is the mortise? Impossible to figure out. It's also canvas repair. Here as well, it's all canvas. So all that is the hardwood, very well used. You can see it was used to the grave, to the ground. So how do we even know what I was supposed to do with that? So another you can't see very well here, but another little hint is here. There's a little sliver of wood inserted there. What's that for? And here, sorry, and here, all the back is plastered with canvas as well. Why does this happen? Any idea?
Oh, maybe woodworm damage if it was lying on the floor and got in and ate it back.
Yeah,
Water damage.
anything else?
B
why was it put there? Was it put there originally or was it put there after it was dispersed out to the damage?
The joint lifted apart at some later date and they
Mhm.
fill it in.
Yeah, possibly. So, and this is how, look at that. How would we even know how is it looking there? That's why the research like Karen's is so invaluable, because you can look underneath all that. Otherwise it's absolutely impossible. But as a hard maker, all what I can do is interpret it. So my approach would be to look at this and try to figure out, okay, what happened here? And from my experience, from looking at other harps, from making other harps, I try to figure out what would an initial instrument maker, harp maker do there. And what helps us in that is looking inside. What happened? All right. So I was going to do the close-ups. So here is a better close-up of the neck damage. What do you think? What can you see there? Strips of metal. Yeah, there's at least two strips of actually, about 4 strips of metal here. What else? Oh, everywhere. Canvas is everywhere. What do you think could be underneath? Nails, lights. What else?
Looks like there's a giant hole in the side where the beaver's got it.
Giant hole in the side. What else can we see? There's something very, very interesting what we can see here is how did they go around the break? How did the player or whoever was preparing that instrument for the player, how did they go around to recreate the alignment, the string alignment? They put the bridges. These are predecessors of bridge pins. Yeah, these things. So this would put them in alignment. This would make spacing usable. So you wouldn't have a huge gap in the middle of between the two strings. Yeah, so you'd have so
It looks like there's pins all the way
yeah.
to the crook, which would have been a very small
Yeah.
string.
Yeah. And also here we see that the string is wound in a funny way, but we don't know who did it. So that's one thing we have to interpret. We have to interpret what could have happened here originally. How were the pins set up in the first place? So talking about trying to recreate it in its original shape. What could it have been? So like this is totally changed, and it's nearly impossible to recreate. So you just have to take your experience and analyze the instrument, see maybe or other instruments as well, see what stringing patterns of the instruments of that period could happen. The next one is the same, damage to the neck. We've already seen that as a close-up. You can't see anything there. You don't know, is it in the middle? So one of the questions, is the neck set in the middle of the sound box or not? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Maybe a bit to the right.
Yeah. It's hard to say from the photo. So the next one, that's the other side of that damage. Again, so what was happening there is a bit more canvas. Maybe it's easier to interpret from this side as well, the positioning of the pins. That's the top. We cannot see the damage at all because it's so heavily repaired. Yeah, we cannot see what actually is there. Whether the neck shifted down in some way or the whole thing was shifted down, we just don't know. So here is the joint between neck and pillar. So when whatever happened to the neck, that could have been the repair which was compensating for that. So because there was huge movement there because of the tension of the strings. So that's what they tried to compensate, how they tried to compensate the little sliver. So what we have to analyze there as well, how would that sliver affect the position of the neck on the sound box? Would it lift it really high, or would it lift it just a tiny bit? How many millimeters would it lift it up? Next one. impossible to figure out with any tools available to me, because you'd measure the thickness of the canvas. That's it.
Natalie, were you able to get your pattern? Oh, I'm getting ahead of you. I was going to ask, I'm sure you're going to talk about, were you able to get pattern your gauge down at the base end of the sound box at all?
Well, I decided not to because of the canvas. There's no point, and there's metal there. it'll get stuck there.
It's stuck in there.
Now, so in order to do some sort of interpretation, that's what we have to do. We have to look inside. So here is one of the possible answers. You can see your neck joint here. You can see the inside. What can we see on that picture from the inside?
Off center.
It's off center, and not just slightly. Quite seriously off center. It's about, I don't know, about 2 or 3 millimeters off center. What's this here?
Yeah, the wedge in there.
So there's a wedge. So we can figure out that it could have been set pretty loosely, or whatever. It's up for our interpretation, or Karen, what do you think?
I don't know.
Is the wedge to compensate for the crack? Is the wedge to compensate for the crack?
Yeah.
That would be the case as well. That would be the case as well. Although, then maybe it would enforce and encourage more cracking.
Yeah.
You know, I would be careful with that. Then, what else can you see from this photo?
It's voltage. It's voltage. It's carved.
Yes.
It's carved.
Yes. And this is one of the great things why this is so important to look inside. Because often, well, how do you know it's not just bellied up under the tension of the springs? Well, that's how we know that. This is, you look inside and you see. Also, you can see the workmanship. You can see the tools he or she was using. Because here we've got the scrape marks, yeah, and I think they were pretty straight tools actually. Possibly can figure out whether it was worked green or not. Possibly. Because but from what I can see, it's really cleanly worked. And if you work timber dry on the end grain, it would be really hard to make it look clean. Very hard. So,
So you think it was probably made of in kind of green and finished with it green?
I'll get there in a bit. Possibly. It's quite possible. So that's what we can say about this part. Okay, it might have been that it's still the mortise might be off center, but maybe the joint or the neck was set in the center, but the mortise was a little bit off center in the neck. We don't know. We can't say until we see the X-rays. So the next. Now, so this is what we can see inside of there, and here is surprise. What can you see there? Giant gaping hole, and
Is that the sound hole on the left-hand side?
there is a sound hole which you would never see from the outside because there is a repair there.
Can you point to where that would be on the in the left-hand picture? Right.
Yeah,
Right there.
right there. Right there. And it's pretty large sound hole as well. So there's no way you can see that. Now this is very interesting. I couldn't figure out how to interpret that until quite recently because I think it was just dropped down like that. You know, so and it looks like this section was pretty thin. So which means that probably, again, it's all guess, that the mortise was actually pretty high so the mortise would have been up here. Oh. And from the inside, I don't know, you can see on this picture, no, you can see it on the next one. There we go. And what else you can see here is string balls. I forgot to say, under on the top, like if you look at from the outside, you can see 35 string balls, and you cannot see any samples at all. So that's what we discovered when we get to
Sorry, Natalie, I'm not, I don't quite get the orientation. We're looking at the soundboard,
So this
and
is
the
the
top
soundboard.
board is the bottom of the harp.
This is the soundboard, yeah, so these are the toggles, and this is the bottom of the harp. So this is,
So the harp's lying on its front and looking into the place.
yeah, you're looking at it like that.
Rather than
No, that way.
Yes, okay, thanks.
That way, yeah. That's a nice prop.
Yeah.
Easy not to handle in comparison with the other one. So what else would you guess from here? And what else can you see there?
What is that?
Nails.
Some sticking out. Yeah, what are those things sticking out? Are those wooden pegs or the screws? Screws.
Possibly. And remember, if you go back here, well, we're gonna,
We very slowly back this again.
you see that stuff there?
Yeah, yeah, okay. So we'll see. Sorry.
So that stuff there, that looks like it's some metal bar or something, metal plate, which was put there and screwed, and that's where you can see corresponding screws here.
Natalie, I always assumed that went down around the base of the pillar, not just to hold the pillar up, but you have to look inside.
Yeah, you can't say. It's
But I
quite
assume
possible
it's-
because it's actually on both sides. Look, here and here. It's the same. It's like
It
V-shaped.
points to the pillars. doesn't it?
Yeah, it's V-shaped, and we don't know. And from here, we don't know. That's again where we need the X-ray.
That would, I think that would fit to the CT scanners. Yeah.
Now, so that's another sample here. And again, that's pretty large.
It looks like it's like almost down in the corner.
Yeah, it's very far from the corner, actually. Yeah. So here we discovered the sound holes. Again, that's another looking inside.
And nobody ever pointed them out before.
Nobody ever saw them
No, this
before.
is great. Natalie, I have a question. Is the base end to the sound box on the inside, does it have lobes like?
Yes.
Oh,
Well, that's what we can see. So it's this
Great, so
shape.
then the sound holes are down, are they?
Yeah.
in the- Oh, yeah, show me the prop, yeah.
There.
Great, that's what I was, excellent.
But in your photo, the holes look like they're on the corner, they're not on the, they're on,
Well,
they're down on the very
Yeah,
corner.
but you forget about the thickness of the sides.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
the
yes,
end
that's
and
on
the
the-
bottom
yeah.
are quite thick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the thickness of the sides here, so they are in the corner
On the inside.
on the inside, yeah. So, and like I'm not saying that this is an accurate replica or anything, it's a mock-up. And I'll tell you why I didn't I made this mock-up. So, now what can you see here as well?
So we're still looking towards the base end?
Yeah, you're still looking towards the base.
Oh yes, you can see the lobes inside the
Yeah, yeah.
Huh?
It looks-
Yeah, you can see the lobes. What else?
Is there a crack?
Oh, there are plenty of those. Yeah, what else?
Tool marks.
Hmm?
Tool marks.
Tool marks.
Tool marks left of centre.
Yeah, what else?
Oh,
What else?
The arc.
This is too hard.
yeah.
The arch.
It's curved, not
The arch. It's curved. And it's not just curved, it's carved. And it's pretty seriously carved. Because the difference between the bottom section of that and the top section of this is 8 centimeters.
Really?
It's 8 centimeters between the sides and the top of the
Soundboard.
yeah, of the sound so that's what we're trying to do in this one. So the shape would be roughly this.
It's pretty extreme, isn't it?
It's quite extreme. And when I agreed to do this, I
Natalie,
didn't realize it was so big.
Natalie, I have a question. Do you know whether the soundboard faces the inside or the outside of the tree?
Say it again.
Which way does the log face in the tree?
I would assume it's
So if the log goes out, do you think this is the? Do you think that it was too wide that it would cut into the hip? Is that why they cut at the front and very wide?
Don't you imagine that? Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, possibly, yeah, it could be the case as well, yeah.
That they couldn't make it more square because they would hit the bar.
Yeah, that's quite possible too. So that's actually, so that's actually, it's, I still have to kind of thin it down a little bit more, but that's the, how it goes. It's very huge circle. Yeah. Same circle. Now,
The lack of symmetry, would you equate that with shrinkage of blood
that
people?
symmetry in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I'd
still
say,
thin,
I'd say it's my
but it-
photographic quality.
But,
Because you had to photograph it from the inside, so it's very
Yeah,
hard.
but I mean, with the tracks, the towels line up in one way, and it just seems, I'm wondering.
But this
how much
is actually
shrinking.
wider. I think it might be, yeah.
Just a damage.
No, well, I think it might be just the way I shoot it from the angle. Now, the next one. Yeah, so from the bottom into the top. See here.
That's it across.
The bar.
Ah,
The bar.
There was a bar inside.
yes.
Is that wooden? Is that wooden, that bar?
Yeah, and so here is the answer what happened actually. The back's cracked. So that's a repair. And I think it's actually softwood repair. I think it's like screws or something, or fur or something. And so we see the crack goes all the way through the middle there. And so this is reinforcement. Because the back is pretty thin.
Do you think these repairs are 18th century or 19th century?
Could be either.
Although Simon, why would it be, what would be the reason for doing that kind of repair in the 19th?
Yeah, when it wasn't laid.
If it's,
Well, the hearts were displayed.
Oh, do you think that this-
Some of them were strong with gut strings.
Oh no, I'd say this was purely practical. That was for being used. Because this repair is because you want the instrument to be functional. It's not for display. That's definitely for the instrument to be functional. Because what happens is that, well, that's another question actually, which I cannot answer and until we have the X-ray. We cannot answer whether the back is slotted like on the Trinity or it's actually glued. Both are plausible.
You feel very blue.
Yeah, because I can see maybe traces of animal glue there, but it's very hard to see. There are traces of animal glue in the gaping hole, so you can see the color there.
And what's that wiggly thing on the right hand side?
Big old crack. This, oh yeah, that's a crack. Yeah, that's a crack. So that's the repair came off, and that's the repair which is still on. And you see the repair came off because, well, one, that's another reason why I'm thinking that maybe it could have been slotted in, because then what happens is that the sides are pushing in, and then that's what happens, and the middle would crack if it's too thin. So that's what happened. That's what happened. So, all right. Okay, sorry. So here are the questions and what we need to go back. What we need to answer, you know. So these are the questions which are up for our interpretation when we reconstruct the instrument. What do we do with all that? How do we interpret? Well, do I do the reinforcement bars in the back? You know? Do I? What do I do? Where do I put the pillar? Where do I position the pillar? Higher or lower? How do I curve the harmonic curve? Do I leave it the same way as it is now, or do I compensate for something, or I guess how it could have been at the beginning? So yeah. That's I already asked the question about the back joint. Was it initially glued or slotted or both? they're not replicas because this would be very expensive and very laborious in process. So we decided just to try to copy the shape and the positions, but like at least part of it is mute. So the neck, the frame is mute, and this is more part, and the part of the sides are mute. Otherwise, huge amount of part. And before starting on those big instruments, I was lucky to be commissioned a mini version of a Rose Mooney harp, which was asked, I was requested to make it from people who live in, they own the estate where Karen lived. They have loads of timber there. And they asked me, said, oh, here's Albert, here's Sycamore, make us a mini harp now. Green. I was like, is it dry now? And I went, you said you could work in green. Yeah, I did. You said that it was supposed to be done green. Yeah, I did. Darn. My big mouth. But then I took it as a project. Oh, that's great, actually. I can explore how you work green wood and how would you do it. And so here is the result. That was a very interesting journey because the green wood behaves completely differently to the dry wood. And so that's that little Mongol thing. So it was made completely out of green wood. This is green alder, and this was Sycamore. And this pillar was cut without use of the saw. This is a very traditional, very old traditional way of cutting quarter saw. Would be really strong, really kind of movable. But you just use an axe for that. That's it, axe and wedges. And this method is used still in taiga in Russia, in Siberia. So that's actually how I found out about it. So, as well, when you work with green wood, you have to think of the joints because the bed eventually is all going to shrink. So you have to leave a bit of leeway. A nice thing which I discovered about green wood, it's really hard to work with the power tools, but it cuts like butter. So this is alder, and if you look at the joint there,
Do we know what alder is in French?
But it's really easy to cut the end grain, because usually end grain is extremely hard to cut. So it's this section here, and here is extremely hard to cut. But with hand tools. But when it's green, it's like a dream. So it's really easy to work. So, which makes me wonder whether the initial Rose Mooney harp, whether this was actually cut that way. Because looking at the grain of the original, I can assume that the pillar was quarter saw and Sycamore, and that was the way. And it was really easy to work it after it's cut that way. It was really easy to carve it. It was by hand, no problem at all. And the whole thing was easy to carve by hand.
Matthew, talking about the pillar, is the grain curved on the pillar?
It was curved. Yeah, that's what I forgot to say, because I did choose a curved piece to match the.
So you're not cutting across the grain?
Yeah. So it was all kind of going that way, and that also makes me think about why they were using curved branches for Queen Mary, because it's really easy to cut that way. So you just some wedges, and in 5 minutes you're half an hour. In half an hour your pillar is cut, without any extra labor. So, and it's very, very strong. Now it's completely, it's very, very strong. So yeah, this was just my sort of first attempt at working, a mock-up attempt at working with green wood and how it would work. And I can say now it's nice. It's much easier. It would probably on the bigger part would be much more labor, huge amount of labor on the sound box because it's so big. But actually, it's actually nicer to work green than to work dry wood. So now with the construction. Oh yeah, so that's what.
Sorry, I did green wood for the whole thing, pillar and sound box. You said green wood
else. So then at least I was measuring the moisture content in the filling, so it went down significantly, and then it goes down, just to avoid unpleasant surprises. Which Simon actually warned me about. He said, well, you better go drive, just in case. So.
You don't see the evidence, you look at my house, you don't do that.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So, in the process of this reconstruction, we decided to recreate the one Rosemary in its current shape, and that one's going to be in its original shape, so possible original shape. So we're going to lift it a bit higher, because actually, if you think of that damage, whether you can call yes, it would gain about an inch. So which means there will be about an inch extra. So it will be about the length of the top string is going to be about 110 centimeters.
When you say top, you mean the
The base.
Mm.
The base string. It also will gain. It will also gain in the in all string lengths are going to be all strings are going to be longer. It will change the angle of the strings to the soundboard, and they will be steeper, which means that the tension on the harp is going to be lower, which is a good thing. So the tension on the soundboard is going to be lower. What else is going to be? Now,
excuse me, Mary, I envision that when you raise the neck that way at the end, percentage-wise for the length of the string, it actually makes a big difference in the mid-range for string length, where percentage-wise it increases it.
Yeah. That's what we will find out. There is another thing which you see Simon strung it in, because I strung it first, and we had a big battle about stringing on the Skype, because I was saying, well, because at first second I did a mock-up on as a plan, and what I discovered when you follow, so I measured meticulously all the distances between pins and horseshoes, and when you actually align them all as 36 strings with both, they were all absolutely even. Yeah. So all strings were absolutely even. There was no fanning. There would be no in the mock-up. There would be no narrowing to base.
This is the current broken state.
Well, this is the question. So this was a mock-up. So it was in the current broken state, but all 36 were
There are 37 pins.
I reckon that the 37th is an add-on. So I'm going to So I reckon the 37th pin up there is an add-on. So
Up there means
in the top.
In the top.
This section.
Sure.
This section here. So probably time to run the big one. So that it's an add-on. So what else am I going to say? So yeah. So what else is going to change? The angle, and then the stringing pattern. Now we're coming to the stringing pattern, because how do we decide on the stringing? How do we decide on the on the gauges of the strings? And that's what I would like you to hear now, because what's important in that case is also this is where Simon's research on the playing techniques is so important, because I probably told you a lot about playing with fingertips over this week. So how would playing the fingertips affect the thicknesses of the strings, or playing the nails with the nails? How would that affect the sound and the thicknesses of the strings? So Siobhan has kindly agreed to provide us with a sample of playing with fingernails, and Simon will play us with fingertips first, and we'll find out what's the difference in the sound. Now we at the moment we fiddled around with the strings a little bit. I felt that the bass was too slack. Oh, sorry, the front wall, the top was too slack. Felt too tinny, and the sound wasn't as nice as one would go for. But
Yes, I wanted to string it light because I think that represented the fingertips.
Yeah.
We went 2 lights.
yeah.
So
Yeah, So that's what we, so this is the next decision which we have to make. Okay, we reconstructed the whole instrument. How do we string it? What gauges do we choose? Heavier gauges, lighter gauges. If you're playing with your nails, you can heavier gauges. If you're playing with your fingertips, lighter, and then it goes down.
So do you want to play in particular register? Or
Well, all of them just
do you want to see where the sounds at the top?
And this position is off. And so here is a question to Siobhan, and that to you as well. So the question to Siobhan, how does it feel on each register for you?
Let's see. This one feels a bit thin. This feels reasonable somehow. But here, it's just starting to feel a bit thin. And the horizontal feeling a bit thin. Somehow. But it's a baby heart.
It's not only about the big part, it's about the strings as well.
But so it's unfair to judge because it's so new, you know, it might develop more depth and sound. You know, I can't tell.
Yeah,
So it seems unfair to this thing.
Yeah, well,
Because it might improve.
It's a first attempt on the stringing, and there was a lot of discussion about it and a lot of fiddling around. I actually changed the top register, and that's maybe why it feels a bit better for me.
Oh yeah,
It's region is nice, that's what we've been thinking about.
Yeah,
so
so
I like this.
So we beat the top one. What you as an audience, what's your feeling about the sound?
I like the treble rumble, the bass, and yes, it sounds not as good in the mid-range, and I wonder, are you still working with how high you would put the color in the box for string length? Because that mid-range would change a lot.
Yeah, there's the issue that we know that this is kind of the shape of version we had it.
That's
so
what
we
goes
Yeah,
through
need
your-
to get it set up in this shape. as
Sure.
well.
Except that the one thing that you're not considering is pitch.
Yeah.
This is at 440 pitch.
Yeah.
There's no reason to think that she'd play her part.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also said that her harp didn't sound very good.
No, that's the
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Okay, so
wrong way
Anne
around.
takes that back.
Yes, I take it back, that's the wrong way around.
Okay. Well, this is an interesting one because that's the string lengths are much shorter. So at least an inch shorter, which actually adds some.
So to point out, given that the thing is the shape version we had it, and this is the range of notes that
Yeah.
we're told that
Yeah.
originally had on the harp. The only question is which pins and which positions it's used
Exactly.
for those.
So
You've got wheel work, because
Yeah.
there's more pins and shoes than there are notes that originally used.
right, yeah. So that's why
We don't know which one she's
this setup is totally that was an attempt to what Rose Mooney could have had. So and it's big with the nails.
The winter columns, those pins that the string goes over.
Well, the screws.
Which pins?
There's
Which
screws.
is much later.
Oh, yeah. Oh, those would make it even lower. So,
Mind you, a finished base is good for a rapidly running base. I'm just thinking. You know, kind of sort of Carolyn base. It's nice and clear. Much clearer than on my mullet last. And bigger strings and 415. So that's quite
so
nice.
all these things we have to consider. Can you imagine for a harp maker? What do you do? Okay. Simon, would you like to take a fingers? So Simon kindly cuts the tips of his nails.
Oh, it's very dramatic because it's very intimate. I have a medieval concert in 2.5 weeks' time. And I've tried to bring that out, but they insisted on playing the house.
I really
It's all your fault.
sacrifice, yeah.
Just do that.
So, can you hear the difference?
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
What's the difference? It's like that.
So, what is the difference?
So service is essentially louder,
Is that-
which is a bit of a shocking thing because I was like, oh, it's so quiet.
It's more, I don't know, machine or round or something.
Okay. Okay.
It's much louder than you expected. Yeah, it's louder than you expected.
That's louder than you expect when you play it with finger pads, fingertips. Yeah? And is it louder than with the nails or not?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's only the base.
So those are the thicker strings.
There's slightly different.
And they will consider those.
I'm getting a bit of nail catching on some of the strings because I've desperately kept my nails as long as I dare. So
How does it feel for you with the rain noise?
you know, I'm thinking, yeah, this is a bit thick.
It's too thick for the
It
finger
feels
pads.
a bit hard, whereas
Okay,
this
finger pad.
is very comfortable.
So this is the other decision which we have to make. Then it can be done like according to the harper's preference, your preference, or whatever technique you're using, or like whatever we want to explore in that. So
But I'm just thinking, Natalie, when we were saying
Yes.
the difference. You're not
It's not really a scientific experiment,
No.
we're not comparing like to like, so I was saying it's left shoulder, I'm thinking I'm right. I think my base is wimpier anyway than
Right,
yours.
I'm really pushing it.
Yeah, so I was
Right.
like, had I known you were going to do that, I would have pushed it.
Can I have a second?
Round two, round two.
Well, I need it side by side.
So I didn't points on the first round.
This is like Conor McGregor versus Diaz last week. Or maybe this isn't the gathering, so to mention,
Yeah.
to mention that kind of content.
Oh, there's a difference if you put this into Jesus.
Well, let me try to sing it. What do you think, Shoulders?
Hold on, back down.
So what do you think? Less wimpy? So, or
Well, I think that with the nails, I'm hearing more of the higher
partials?
partials.
Oh, I see.
Because you're grabbing a shorter length of the string originally twice, so it's exciting.
So I think the strings sound thin.
Right. Right, that's very
Yeah,
nice.
so it's like understrung, it sounds a bit twangy.
Play the upper notes though, to hear
Yeah,
it.
when you're playing the high range, above top G,
Just play anything, just hear it. It's way better.
so how's that compare when I play the top range?
Shalom, class.
I went on.
So
So that's really interesting, that they
Yeah.
have the two ranges, one heavier, one lighter.
yeah, so that is, for us, it's now a decision, what do we want to do? Are we leaving this at a lower tension, or we're putting higher tension on that? Or are we having one at a lower tension and the other one at a higher tension? What are we doing? You know, so it's all, for us, it's all kind of these decisions which we have to make.
Well, of course, this half is in play with fingertips, it's
Okay.
normal, but you can still be 18 if you have.
Is he going home soon?
Well, you can leave it ahead of downhill.
I can't leave it down with downhill, it's controversial.
It sounds to me like the bass strings are a bit.
They sound flappy. They sound flappy.
Yeah.
What about the Simon place?
That sounds like they sound like.
Okay, so Karen was saying that the bass string sounded a bit flappy when I played, and I said, well, is it different when you play? And she said, no, they sounded a bit flappy when you played as
Yeah, the
well.
bass sounds
So maybe
like
it's just a bit under-egged.
I think the bass is a bit short, the notes were getting.
Oh, I see.
But then it wasn't designed to be this short, was it?
No, but also,
You know, it's 2 inches high.
you made it shorter.
I did.
You moved the, so that's what, because Simon was messing with it in my absence. And so he moved what, I actually had it strung from here down to the base, but I listened to him and didn't put the string down the bottom.
So we could have had longer
We
strings.
could have had
Okay,
longer
what was
strings.
your rationale? for
Yeah,
that?
why should we do that?
The ratio of lengths from treble to mid-range, because the way Natalie's playing, the treble strings are breaking because they were too long.
Okay.
No, they weren't too long.
They were too long and
No, they were too thin.
It doesn't matter how thin they are, they break it as a pitch. That's what
Wait a minute, were you using iron?
No.
But see, a lot thought the harbors were using iron.
Okay.
So it was iron, but
Yeah,
it wasn't long enough iron. It's not like long enough, so you got a nice.
Oh, I see.
So the scale was marginal.
No,
Well, there are like, there are these would be, this one I think is over 10 centimeters.
So this way.
Oh, they are, yeah. This
So
way.
yeah, so another possibility is to go back the other way and have iron.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that would be interesting.
So,
You are right.
So considered.
But the other, yeah, so another consideration is that I just felt the trebles were tilting back a bit much. And then there's also the point of this screws to shorten the treble strings. You
Yeah.
that shortens them, and then you can have them see for a longer.
Right.
Yeah. So there's so many choices with this.
exactly, there are so many choices in the string, so that's what we have to decide now, what I'm going to do next with this part and with that part, how we're going to string it. And so it's up to discussion, what do we want to do with it, and I'm waiting for instructions. Because of course I have my own opinion, and I would do what I would do, I would just put all the string numbers, 36 string holes, 36 pins,
37 pins.
one is a, one is a later edition.
What's your rationale for thinking that one is a later edition?
Okay, let's have a look at it. Well, the rationale is because, well, we have to look at it. When you look at it, you can see it's because it's so all over the place there. That's when it's, first of all, it's out of, there's no proper proportion there. And then it's just, it's not in the right place. Let's have a look. We have to go pretty far back.
But you see, originally you didn't have 36 strings connected to 36 pins. You only have 30.
Well, that's why I said that's what I would do. That's what I would do. For me, it's logical. Okay, there's 36 of this.
So that's logical if you're making it the original shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not necessarily rational for the broken shape.
Yeah. So, but that's, and also that because if you're aligning them that way, it was perfectly in alignment. When they're like very even spacing, and because the spacing of pins and some holes is not even, so it was definitely designed. So we're going, okay, look, 1.2, 1.2, 1.2, 1.2. You draw it.
You see, I think the issues to do with stringing the two reconstructions are completely different. I think the reconstruction that is the original shape, then yes, you're expecting there to be a logic and a structure to use.
Yeah.
You're expecting to use every pin and every shoe.
Yeah.
But in the broken shape that most really have, especially because we have this additional note,
Yeah.
we're looking to make that smaller set of notes have their best sound on the shape that it's going to sort it from.
That's it.
And point to the highest shoe.
That's the highest shoe. So it would be, the angle would be too acute here for original design.
With the straight pin, you can correct it with the bridge pin.
Well, we can't see any bridge pin here, yeah, we can't see any. But the angle would be too acute for that. The logic of the whole instrument wouldn't allow for that.
Well, we don't know what unfortunately, as you pointed out, we don't know what the neck joint of the sound box looks like right now.
Yeah.
Is it possible that the neck was originally angled up?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you tell us anything about those fragments of wire on the hammer pins?
No, I can't because I didn't measure those.
But they exist.
Yeah, you see them.
Yeah, so there's little twigs of wire on the top pin, and are they iron or glass?
I didn't look at those, to be honest. I didn't. I'm not a great expert and I wouldn't work person.
Well, we can find it. I think they're glass.
Yeah, so we
So
have
that might
actually
actually give
Bring
something.
somebody bring a magnet
yeah.
tomorrow. Bring a magnet.
We have
Somebody has a magnet. Bring a magnet.
Oh, yes.
You see, whichever they are, that might argue the high trebles or glass trebles.
Yeah. So, like, I reckon, so that's why I was talking about this 37, which is making it a little bit funny and not harmonious, you know.
You see, why is the 37 pin? Because it's useless.
Well, no, because she was so desperate maybe to add an extra string, you know, that she just wanted to
Well, or if one pin isn't working well, because of the
Yeah.
brake.
But also, like, because I did it myself, I was saying, it's just when something's parked and I'm trying to repair.
We should also point out that the disposition of Rosemary's house, when she had it, was even more confused with the two base pin holes of rock.
Oh, yeah, the two
So
bases.
we meant to skip the two lowest base
Yeah, there we go.
pins.
No,
There, those are blocked.
So did she block them or did it block later?
Or the pins broke off,
Yeah.
maybe it fell.
So we meant to try and get her ranging notes running on it without using the two base pins.
Yeah.
And that'd be even harder.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Rosemary would be laying this far with all that canvas repair.
Possibly,
I
most
wonder
likely.
what effect that would have on the sign for the farm.
Well, we don't know, it could be anything. You see what I was saying, that's why I was saying, you know, because there's so much metal there, it could be rattling like
So-
that.
Can I propose the next step in the experiment?
Yeah.
We get slow channel, we smash up your car and you repair it.
So can I just point out the music network and that? Wilder and wilder.
Can we apply just